At 6.
We'll see you at 6.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We begin with the daily summary of what we know about the war. The air campaign against Iraq and Kuwait is now running at 1 combat mission per minute. The Iraqis say the bombing campaign against Baghdad has become intense again. The Iraqis are still generally quiet about casualties. Another 25 Iraqi tanks have been found in the open and reportedly destroyed. Out of thousands, 6 Marines have been killed in 2 helicopter crashes. Iran has offered to mediate an end to the war. Not much enthusiasm in Washington for that. The Secretary of Defense said in Washington today it was always assumed that a land war would be required to liberate Kuwait. We begin in the combat zone with ABC's Bill Rediker.
The focus of the Allied air campaign becomes more clear tonight. The British, who had been attacking Iraqi airfields, have now joined the Americans in firing laser-guided bombs at targets like this bridge across the Euphrates River.
So there you see he's got one or more direct hits on the railway itself.
The U.S. says 27 of Iraq's 35 major bridges have now been destroyed, cutting supply routes to ground forces. It is also clear that the
as we've discussed before, that they are digging in to try to protect themselves against our enemy air attacks.
Because of that, it is becoming apparent that the U.S. is getting ready to try to challenge the Iraqis on the ground. But there are problems. This multiple launch rocket system is the most sophisticated piece of artillery in the Allied inventory. Yet there are not enough of them. Iraq has more artillery. In all, more than 3,000 artillery pieces. Another problem? Getting through Iraq's well-fortified defense positions.
It will be one of the toughest things that we have done in the past 50 years, without a doubt.
Land charges to clear mines will be fired across Iraqi minefields to try to open the way for tanks. But this sort of impressive firepower won't destroy some of Iraq's newest mines.
You shoot a line charge against this mine, a line charge about this far, only thing it's going to do is move it. The preferred method is mark them and avoid them. Stay in the track path, stay in someone else's footpath.
What the Allies really prefer is no ground war at all. But with the Iraqis digging in instead of backing down, the coalition is preparing its ground forces to join its air offensive. Bill Rediker, ABC News, Saudi Arabia.
In Washington today, President Bush presented his overall budget to Congress, and a little later in the broadcast we'll concentrate on the domestic legislation. But for the moment, the defense budget. Mr. Bush wants $295 billion for national defense for the next fiscal year, which does not include how much it will cost to fight the war in the Gulf. Mr. Bush hopes that other nations will pay the lion's share. If they don't, he will make a separate money request to Congress. But the war in the Gulf and the performance of some of its weapons there has already begun to change the way the Pentagon wants to spend its money next year. Here's ABC's Bob Zelnick.
The Pentagon used the success of its high-technology weapons in the Gulf, like the Patriot missile, to request a major increase in funding for SDI to defend against ballistic missiles. It also pointed to the performance of the stealth fighter to request 4 additional B-2 stealth bombers at a cost of $4.8 billion.
If anyone had any doubts about stealth, they ought to look at the performance of the F-117 fighter bomber that has played such a crucial role in striking key targets in our operations against Saddam Hussein's forces.
The buildup in the Gulf showed the need for more cargo ships and planes to quickly transport heavy equipment, and the budget calls for more fast transport ships and accelerated purchase of the C-17 cargo plane. But despite the Gulf War, the overall Pentagon budget is down by about 1%, allowing for inflation. For the most part, the budget has been shaped by improved U.S.-Soviet relations and the budget crunch. The number of active-duty military personnel will be cut by 25% over the next 4 years. This despite the fact that the Army is not yet confident enough of its combat reserve forces to assign them to the Gulf. The military plans to stop buying some of the weapons now playing prominent roles in the Gulf War. The Pentagon says it has enough Bradley troop carriers and F-15 Eagles. The Navy's last 2 battleships, the Missouri and the New Jersey, are scheduled to be retired. Surprisingly, the Pentagon did not ask for anywhere near as many Tomahawk cruise missiles and Patriot missiles as it said it would 10 months ago. Some critics say the Pentagon may try to pay for these weapons when Congress takes up funding for the Gulf War. That could free up money for some programs the Pentagon could not otherwise afford. Bob Zelnick, ABC News at the Pentagon.
In a moment, the possibility of an Iraqi military link to Sudan. America's image in the Middle East, under siege in some places. And the domestic budget, where the money will be spent.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Jeep and Eagle.
This good boy shares what he has with the rest of his class. This bad boy doesn't.
Save $700 on new 1991 Jeep Cherokees.
This is the sound of Unisom, the sound of sleep. With Unisom, you hit your pillow and fall asleep fast. Tonight, you can sleep more soundly with Unisom, America's #1 sleep aid.
When sore muscles or minor arthritis pain hold you back, you need strong medicine. Ben Gay with not just one, but 2 pain relievers. Warming power for fast relief. Helps get you going again. Ben Gay, fast, strong medicine for pain relief.
There are some new questions today about how much of Iraq's Air Force has been knocked out for the duration. The U.S. military says that between those planes destroyed on the ground and in the air, plus the 89 that have reportedly flown to Iran, nearly a third of Iraq's combat aircraft are out of action for the foreseeable future. But Iraq may have found another sanctuary for some of its air power. Karen Burns has the result of an ABC News investigation.
Senior diplomatic and military sources from Europe and the Sudan tell ABC News that Iraq has positioned combat aircraft and surface-to-surface missiles at strategic sites across the Sudan. Sources say the aircraft are now hidden at 2 airfields. One Western relief official says that he saw more than 20 Iraqi fighter jets at a restricted airbase north of the capital, Khartoum.
We recognized these aircrafts by their color and their national emblem, the Iraqi national colors.
According to Sudanese military sources, the missiles are positioned in Arus and Erkowit, in the barren hills across the Red Sea from Saudi Arabia. General Fatih Ahmed Ali is the former commander-in-chief of the Sudanese armed forces.
From a military point of view, I think he's stationing them there to be used at a later stage.
Another Sudanese general says missiles began to arrive after the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait.
These missiles arrived by sea. They shipped them from Iraq. They reached Port Sudan, and in Port Sudan, they put them out of the ship and then transported them to these 2 areas.
Western relief workers say that in November and early December, they saw Iraqi ships in the harbor of Port Sudan, surrounded by intense military security.
Yes, and here, there, oh, yes, I see it. Here's the ships from Iraq.
The ships from Iraq were here?
Yeah, yes.
Military analysts say that oil installations in western Saudi Arabia, 250 miles away, would be one likely target of the missiles and the aircraft. Another possible target would be the Aswan Dam, Egypt's main source of power and water. Demonstrators in the Sudan have called for an attack on the dam in retaliation for Egypt's support of the West. Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak has not confirmed reports of Iraqi weapons in the Sudan, but he has said that if he's attacked, he will respond harshly. Sudanese officials deny that there are Iraqi missiles or aircraft on their soil, but they do have a long-standing military relationship with Iraq. American officials say they have received intelligence reports about an Iraqi presence on Sudanese soil, but they cannot confirm them, and they will not comment on the threat that might present. Karen Burns, ABC News, Cairo.
The president of Iran, Hashemi Rafsanjani, says he would be willing to open talks with both the U.S. and Iraq if it would help stop the shooting. No response yet from Baghdad. The White House was cool to the idea, saying the bottom line remains Iraq must leave Kuwait. Iran, which as of now has a lot to gain from the war, has been playing a very careful game. ABC's John McKenzie with some of the details in Tehran.
President Rafsanjani condemns both sides in this crisis. He criticizes Iraq for invading Kuwait, and he criticizes the United States for sending troops to the area. Today, the president emphasized Iran would remain neutral.
We will not get involved under any circumstances.
As for the Iraqi planes that have flown into Iran, the president said they will be kept here until the end of the war. And he denied they were part of any prearranged plan with Iraq.
The arrival of our planes was totally out of our control or choice. In the past, Iraq never told us that their warplanes would come to Iran.
And that's not all that's coming to Iran. Refugees, more than 2,000, have now crossed the border since the fighting began. Today, in the dusty streets of Tehran, as people lined up to buy their afternoon newspaper, many remembered their own 8-year war with Iraq. Many believe then, as now, it is the United States that is largely responsible for these conflicts.
On that time, Saddam Hussein was your best friend. You gave them money, you assist them. Now, after 2-3 months, everything changed.
Now, America is not protecting us. America is protecting their own benefit in the region.
In several Iranian cities, anti-war rallies have quickly turned into anti-American rallies. The real concern for Iranian leaders is quickly becoming what happens after the war, what happens to the U.S. forces.
If American forces remain in the region, there will never be any security here.
This crisis presents Rafsanjani with a delicate balancing act at home, as Islamic fundamentalists try using the war to push him out of office. As the fighting in the Gulf continues, as more Muslims are killed, the more difficult it becomes to keep that pledge of neutrality. John McKenzie, ABC News, Tehran.
In the biggest city in Saudi Arabia, the city of Jeddah, last night, gunmen attacked a shuttle bus carrying American servicemen. Nobody was hit. 2 Americans were slightly injured by flying glass, and the gunmen escaped. No one is officially calling it terrorism, but just a few miles from the biggest naval base in the world, in Norfolk, Virginia, bombs were found today attached to 2 giant storage tanks. One of the tanks held 1 million gallons of methanol, a highly flammable form of alcohol. The other held a chemical which could produce dangerous fumes if it caught on fire. There's no claim of responsibility, and the FBI has been put in charge of the investigation. When we come back, the president's domestic budget. Not much new money, just new ways to spend it.
I get this awful sinus pain, crushing, pounding. It's agony.
Are you still taking any of these sinus pain formulas? They all made news in the 80s. Surprisingly, they all have the same medicine. Today's news is Dristan Sinus. Only Dristan Sinus combines the leading decongestant with the modern pain reliever ibuprofen.
I found it relieves my sinus pain wherever it strikes, and no drowsiness.
So if you're taking the same medicine that made news in the 80s, get new Dristan Sinus, today's sinus medicine.
Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to the most people coast to coast? Who did you think?
During the course of one 60-minute workout, a body can be depleted of vitamins B6 and C, carbohydrates, and valuable potassium, all of which, it so happens, can be replaced by eating one Chiquita banana. So whatever you put out, put back. Chiquita, quite possibly the world's perfect food.
Who guarantees overnight air delivery before 10:30 to more businesses than anyone else in the business? Who did you think?
Back to the budget, which once again is far beyond what the government can afford. President Bush's budget calls for the government to spend nearly $1.5 trillion, nearly $281 billion more than it will take in. On the domestic side, they say that overall spending is generally keeping up with inflation, and the administration is calling it a reform budget for families and children. Here's ABC's Rebecca Chase.
Most of these new initiatives for families and children are coming at the expense of existing programs for the poor. The $25 billion housing budget includes a $1 billion increase in programs to help house the poor. The emphasis is on home ownership, resident management, and conversion of public housing to private ownership.
HUD's resources can best serve low-income Americans by increasing the opportunity for home ownership and choice as to opposed to building more government-owned, government-managed public housing projects.
Critics point out the new initiatives are funded through cuts in other low-income housing programs.
While the manner in which we're providing housing aid would be changed, the amount of aid, the number of new households being assisted, would remain at historically a very low level.
The administration is also proposing a new initiative to help the homeless, a $258 million program that combines shelter with supportive services, such as job training. But again, the funding comes from cuts in existing programs. One of the most controversial proposals may be the administration's plan to transfer $15 billion in federal programs to the states. Again, most of the proposed cuts come from programs to help the poor, but the states will be able to spend the money however they wish. For families and children, then, domestic spending remains relatively the same, and despite claims of reforming the budget to be more fair to the poor, programs that help low-income families are headed for some of the biggest cuts. Rebecca Chase, ABC News, Washington.
When it comes to spending on health, the government is trying to save billions of dollars by cutting payments to hospitals, doctors, and labs. At the same time, there is new spending. Here's ABC's George Strait.
Much of this year's budget reflects the old maxim, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, especially where children are concerned. To prevent malnutrition, there is $223 million more to expand the WIC program, providing food for 200,000 additional low-income women, infants, and children. To prevent premature infant deaths, there is $170 million to provide prenatal care to pregnant women in the 10 cities with the highest infant mortality rates. But much of this money will be taken from the budgets of other programs, like health care for migrant workers and community health centers. But the administration denies those programs will be hurt.
We are always reallocating dollars within our department when we find new opportunities or new priorities.
To prevent further drug abuse, there is an additional $99 million to pay for a 20% increase in drug treatment programs across the country. To pay for these modest programs and to counter the skyrocketing costs of Medicare, the administration is proposing a $3.2 billion cut in the government's health policy for the elderly. Seniors would have to pay for part of the cost of diagnostic tests, which are now free. There would be a big cut in the amount doctors are paid for their services, and hospitals that are research centers and serve poor patients will be paid a lot less for the care they give. Hospitals say it will be difficult to absorb more cuts.
If we had to cut back the house staff, as an example, a number of house staff that we have, we would have considerable difficulty meeting the same standards of quality of care.
Congress is expected to resist the Medicare cuts directly affecting the elderly, but it might agree to the cuts affecting physicians. Many members say the senior lobby has much more clout than the doctor lobby. George Strait, ABC News, Washington.
When we come back, heavy losses and deep cuts at the world's largest car maker.
Did you know there are two types of bills? The kind everybody loves to get and the kind everybody hates to get. Now, if your small business is using another long-distance company, send us your last bill, switch to AT&T Pro Watts, and you'll save up to 1,000 of these bills. What's more, with Pro Watts, you'll be getting AT&T quality at an extremely competitive price. So call now, because you can never have too many bills. I mean these bills, not these bills. Up to $1,000 savings. Another AT&T advantage.
I can't believe it either, Marge, but it looks to me like they're gone.
You know, that sign wasn't up there for more than a couple, 3 days. And bingo. According to Nextdoor, they got top dollar, too.
Really?
I've never seen a house move so fast. I've never seen a real estate outfit move so fast.
If you're buying a home, if you're selling a home, we're prepared to get the results you're looking for. Consult a Prudential real estate professional today. The Prudential, you know us, we know real estate.
Although the Subaru Legacy is just as durable as our older models, it's a lot more stylish. So you no longer have to own a Subaru 10 years before you think it's beautiful.
Poison ivy, insect bites, rashes. Too many choices.
You only need one. Cordaid.
Stop the itch and heal the rash with a brand doctors recommend most.
Present arms.
Cordaid, the only aid you need.
I have a horrible sinus headache. There's pounding, there's pressure, there's pain.
Today, Linda Clark is trying Tylenol Sinus.
Tylenol Sinus took away the pressure. It took away the pain. It took away the pounding. I like that it's a Tylenol product. I trust that name.
Tylenol Sinus, the strength you need from the name you trust. And now look for new Tylenol Sinus gel caps. Maximum strength, concentrated, and gelatin coated so they're easy to swallow. Only from Tylenol, the first sinus gel cap.
The world's biggest automaker is in big trouble. General Motors has announced it will cut back its non-union workforce by 15% in the next 2 years. GM is also cutting the dividend it pays shareholders by nearly half. Here's ABC's Stephen Ogg.
With consumer confidence near record lows, auto sales have been suffering for months. Now, General Motors, faced with losses for last year estimated at $1.75 billion, is asking its employees, suppliers, and stockholders to share the misery. Among the money-saving measures that GM announced today are reducing so-called salaried employment, non-union workers, by about 15,000 over the next 2 years, 6,000 this year alone. Most of this should be through retirements and normal attrition. That could save $750 million. Asking suppliers like steel companies, tire companies, and other firms that sell parts to GM to cut their prices. GM hopes this will save it $2 billion over the next 3 years. Cutting the dividend almost in half. This could save $840 million a year. Cutting spending on new machinery, modernizing and new projects by $500 million a year. And they're cutting out nearly all executive bonuses. GM also plans to simplify manufacturing by producing cars that use more of the same parts. GM officials obviously hope the move will save enough cash so the company can make it through the recession until consumer confidence returns and buyers return to the showroom. Stephen Ogg, ABC News, Washington.
That news from GM today after the stock market closed. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 41 points to close at 2772, and the trading was very heavy. Well, the decision has been made, but the controversy will surely go on and on. Pete Rose will not be going into the baseball's Hall of Fame. The Hall's directors have voted to exclude all players on baseball's ineligible list, and there is only one living player on the list, Pete Rose. He was kicked out of the game for gambling. He has more hits than anyone in the history of baseball. Overseas again in South Africa today, the beginning of a long-awaited trial with very powerful political consequences. Winnie Mandela, the wife of the African national leader Nelson Mandela, faces charges of kidnapping and assaulting 4 teenagers, one of whom subsequently died. Today, defense lawyers argued that charges against Mrs. Mandela and 3 co-defendants should be dropped for lack of evidence. The prosecutors are to respond tomorrow. We'll have our final report in just a moment.
Pain from just one sensitive tooth can start the domino effect. Pain can make you stop brushing, lead to plaque buildup, gingivitis, periodontal disease, even tooth loss. Sensodyne toothpaste helps stop the pain and the domino effect.
Milk-Bone dog biscuits, dog treats, and flavor snacks. Happy Valentine's Day.
3 reminders from a leader in 4-wheel drive and all-wheel drive technology. 1. Don't try this without the advantage of 4-wheel drive. 2. Don't try this without the advantage of all-wheel drive. And 3. Don't try 1 or 2 without the advantage of Jeep or Eagle.
What do professionals do when they get a clogged sink, a stopped-up shower, a backed-up tub? They just pour in the power. The professional power of professional strength liquid Drano with 3 active ingredients. The power it takes to clear really tough clogs. Professionals use the professional liquid, and now you can too. Pour in the power. Professional strength liquid Drano.
Tonight on Nightline, if you could end the Gulf War and save tens of thousands of lives by killing one man, Saddam Hussein, why not just do it? Tonight.
Finally this evening, the American image. You may have seen over the weekend hundreds of thousands of people in the Middle East protesting the American-led military campaign against Iraq. But it is still fair to say that in virtually every corner of the Middle East, Americans are among the most admired of all foreigners, and have been for decades. Occasional outbursts of violence against individual Americans or against American institutions notwithstanding, if you ask almost all but the most resentful Arabs, they will not hesitate to cite Americans as the individual foreigners they most admire. Which brings up a question for the future. What effect will the war have on this long-standing relationship? In some countries, such as Jordan, which has been among the most pro-American of nations, the early signs are not encouraging. ABC's Bill Blakemore is there.
America was a model for Jordan's vigorous experiment in democracy, only a year old. But now that the U.S. has gone to war for the first time ever against an Arab country, with civilian casualties and the destruction of Iraq's basic utilities in the news here, long-term feelings about America seem to be undergoing a deep change. Senator and former cabinet minister Layla Sharaf.
The new world order that the United States keeps talking about is going to be the order of the dictatorship of the United States over the world, and that this war is the subjugation of the last area that may say no.
Word in George Salam's Amman barbershop is the same. He says, America doesn't worry about our rights, they just care about their economic interests. Anchorwoman Kathy Kakish writes a weekly survey of Jordanian public opinion.
Why have a new order after the war? Is this what he means by a new order? Destroying a certain region in the world and then moving on to a new order?
Samir Darwaze heads Jordan's Exporters Association.
There are poor Arabs and there are rich Arabs. And unfortunately, America has taken the part of the rich Arabs.
Young Jordanians held a campus demonstration today against an America they see as something other than the liberator of Kuwait.
They are here to destroy Iraq, to crush Iraq as one American soldier would put it on TV last night.
But the same views are heard in quieter discussions away from the demonstrations. Student leaders told us America is grossly uninformed about Arabs and Islam. Americans think Islam equals fundamentalist and terrorist. They told us, with the Soviet Union gone, the yard is now empty for Americans, so they're running wild, unchecked. It is a view shared by many professors.
The Americans need an enemy to fight against. Before, they were presented with communism and its branches. Now they have the new enemy presented in the shape of Islam.
One Jordanian government advisor here suggested that the U.S., by going to war, is getting short-term economic benefits in exchange for long-term hatred. The people in this region, he said, now see America promoting not democracy, but the idea that might makes right. Bill Blakemore, ABC News, Amman.
That is our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
And now, the news continues.